Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. Two police officers, clad in blue uniforms, pulled up to my garage in a patrol car. I observed them discreetly from beneath the lift, wiping the grease from my hands as I tried to assess their demeanor. It struck me as odd to see police officers so cheerful. However, their expressions darkened as they approached. After confirming my identity, they delivered unsettling news. Something had happened to my wife, Kate. She was in the hospital, but they couldn't provide details. I instinctively moved to leave, but they intercepted me, pressing for information about my whereabouts over the last 3 hours. I assured them I had been at the garage all day and suggested they confirm with my mechanics, Mike and Pete. Apologetically, I admitted to sneaking out for 10 minutes around 11 in the morning to grab coffee for the team. One officer questioned Mike and Pete while the other jotted down the name of the coffee shop I had visited. Then he asked to see my truck. Without hesitation, I led him outside. He meticulously inspected the vehicle before finally allowing me to leave for the hospital. Arriving at the hospital, my heart pounded as a staff member explained Kate's injuries: the severe blood loss, the emergency surgery, the transfusions. My concern deepened when I noticed the doctor's peculiar half-smile as he delivered the grim news. It felt unprofessional, even inappropriate. As I left, the same two officers intercepted me again, seeking further answers. We sat in the hospital cafeteria, nursing cups of coffee as they probed into my marriage. I explained that Kate and I had been married for 8 years. She had worked as a successful attorney, always wanting children but waiting until she was established in her career. A month ago, she had quit her job, intending to take a break before pregnancy. A final stretch of freedom before committing to years of motherhood. Then came a question that caught me off guard. "What can you tell us about John Barton?" I frowned. "I don't know anyone by that name." They exchanged glances but offered no explanation before walking away. Trusting my team to close the garage for the night, I drove home, only to find forensic scientists and a detective combing through the house. The detective introduced himself, summarizing what they knew before repeating the same questions the officers had asked, with one addition. "There are a few drops of blood in the downstairs bathroom. Any idea how they got there?" I shook my head. "No idea." Then I fixed him with a steady gaze. "Are you looking at me as a suspect?" He exhaled, offering a vague reassurance. "We have multiple leads. My colleague is speaking with Mrs. Barton." The name struck a chord. John Barton. Who is John Barton? I pressed. The detective hesitated before apologizing. "I can't disclose that." As they left, confusion gnawed at me. I went upstairs to my bedroom, staring at the scene as if seeing it for the first time. That morning, around 10 a.m. at work, my thoughts had drifted. Thoughts of closeness. Nothing unusual. They say men think about intimacy an average of 67 times per waking hour. After a month of near celibacy, I was certainly above that average. Kate's sudden disinterest had been noticeable. Mood swings, boredom, exhaustion. I chalked it up to her transition out of work and the looming reality of motherhood. I didn't pressure her. I knew that her life was about to change completely, and fear was a natural response. But that morning, I decided to rekindle what we had lost. Spontaneity, passion. I informed Mike and Pete I'd be out for a while and planned to surprise Kate at home. Pete asked if I could test drive a car he had just serviced. I agreed, taking a quick spin before heading home. Excitement drained the moment I saw an unfamiliar car in my driveway. A visitor. Frustration flared, but I still held on to hope. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe they wouldn't stay long. Entering the house, I called out Kate's name. No answer. Then I heard it. A sound no husband should ever hear. My entire body went cold. My hair stood on end. The unmistakable sounds of pleasure drifted down from our bedroom. My hand instinctively went to my phone. At the garage, I always recorded videos when clients brought their cars in. A precaution against false damage claims. That same habit kicked in now. Heart hammering. I climbed the stairs, pressed record, and nudged the door open just enough to see Kate, a man I didn't recognize. Our bed. A raw, primal rage coursed through me, but I forced myself to turn away. I could end this man's life in an instant. Instead, I collapsed against the hallway wall, breathless and shattered. They were oblivious to my presence, lost in their act. I wasn't sure how long I sat there, paralyzed by betrayal. But eventually, the sounds of pleasure faded, replaced by hushed conversation. It was just as painful to hear. I needed to think. I needed distance. Treading quietly, I slipped downstairs and sank into the sofa, away from the sights, the smells, the lingering echoes of treachery. My mind, sharp despite the agony, started working. Plan took shape. Get him out first. Confront him. Throw him out back, naked. Then deal with her. No violence. No evidence. Just swift, decisive humiliation. I had the perfect tool for the job. 2 years ago, in the Army Reserve National Guard, I'd been assigned to clearing military vehicles. That's when I came across a stun grenade, a non-lethal device designed for hostage situations. A blinding flash of 8 million candles, a deafening blast of 170 decibels. It could temporarily incapacitate anyone in its vicinity. I retrieved it from my workshop, made a quick modification by adding a rope loop, and returned to the bedroom. I didn't bother staying quiet this time. Moans drifted through the door, hand tightening around the grenade. I stepped inside and secured the rope loop to the light fixture, letting the device dangle halfway to the floor. I pulled the pin, pocketed it, and stepped back, pressing my fingers to my ears and squeezing my eyes shut. Even through closed lids, the blast was blinding. The shockwave sent a tremor through the house. As planned, I re-entered the room, ready to execute my revenge. But what I saw froze me in place. The man lay sprawled on his back, motionless. Something was wrong below his waist. Something missing. Kate lay on the floor, eyes vacant, lips trembling as if gasping for air. Confusion flooded my mind. What had just happened? This wasn't the outcome I'd expected. Stumbling back into the hallway, I tried to make sense of it all. Whatever had happened in that room, it was worse than anything I could have imagined. My thoughts were abruptly halted by 2 horrifying screams from the bedroom, followed by loud bangs and the slamming of doors. It dawned on me, I was in serious trouble. My plan had failed once again. Peeking into the chaos, I saw the guy tumble out of bed, clutching his groin and howling in agony. Kate was absent, likely in the bathroom. We needed to erase any evidence. I rushed back into the room, scanning for anything incriminating. Finding the detonator for the device, I quickly secured it to the rope. Everything else seemed destroyed. Taking a deep breath, I cautiously approached the bathroom. Kate was on her knees, vomiting into the toilet. I felt nothing, no sympathy, no concern. I just didn't care anymore. On my way to the door, something on the floor caught my eye. Bending down, I picked up a warm, soft piece of flesh, a severed tip of a tongue. Without hesitation, I carried it to the first-floor toilet and flushed it away. There was no way they were reattaching that. Trying not to make a sound, I slipped into the night. The distance between our house and the neighbors worked in my favor. Halfway to the garage, I emptied my pockets into a roadside trash can. 10 minutes later, I was back in my small work garage, breathing heavily, my mind racing. I called Pete and Mike, my dirty, oil-stained employees and trusted friends. They arrived quickly, alarmed by my tone. Before they could react, I asked them to vouch for me for the last 45 minutes. Their answer was immediate. Of course, boss. But I held up a hand. Wait, before you agree too quickly, hear me out. I warned them that what I had done was serious. Once you know, you might not want to be involved. I don't even know what charges I could face. Maybe jail time. I changed into my old overalls, rubbing an oily rag over my hands and face, preparing for the inevitable police arrival. Then I told them the story. Mike was the first to crack. He tried to hold it in for 15 seconds before bursting into laughter. That set Pete off, and soon all 3 of us were howling. It took a full 5 minutes to regain composure. With firm handshakes and promises of support, they returned to work. Over the next hour, spontaneous laughter echoed through the dingy rooms of the garage. Kate was finally facing the consequences she deserved. That evening, I returned home and cleaned the master bedroom, scrubbing the bathroom floor. The bedding had to go. I made a mental note to buy a new rug. The torn curtains needed replacing too. I kept busy to avoid thinking, but the constant phone calls and knocking at the door made it impossible. The media frenzy was relentless. A mix of infidelity and a man losing his manhood. It was the perfect scandal. I answered the door once before shutting off my phone completely. Finally, with no distractions, I sat down and allowed myself to reflect. Did I regret what I did? Strangely, no. I had always despised cheaters. I'd seen people become unrecognizable when faced with betrayal. The real shock was Kate. I had believed she was as devoted to me as I was to her. Our bed life had been fantastic until recently. After hours of restless thinking, one clue stood out. 2 months ago, Kate mentioned she was retiring to enjoy her last days of freedom. That comment had unsettled me. I had assumed she'd work until at least the 7th month of pregnancy. Something about her one last celebration before kids felt off. My personal cell phone interrupted my thoughts. Not many people had this number. The caller ID showed Kate's parents. They lived 3 hours away. I answered. I always got along with them. Her mother skipped the pleasantries and got straight to the point. Do you know why journalists are swarming our house? They say we'll have to find out eventually. But she hesitated, struggling with her words. Did you watch the news? They're talking about a cheater who bit off her lover's dignity. I sighed. Yes, Mom. Look, there's no easy way to say this, so I'll get straight to it. The woman is Kate. A scream burst through the phone, followed by a beep. The call had ended. I stared at my phone, realizing something important. Earlier that morning, I had left my phone recording outside my bedroom door. The pain was still fresh, but if I never understood Kate's reasons, I would never be able to trust another woman again. There was a good chance I would die a lonely misogynist, doomed to a life of bitterness. Desperate for clarity, I played the recording. I already knew what it showed. The pain of that moment was too vivid to relive. I closed my eyes, letting only the voices reach me. The camera, left on the floor, had only captured the ceiling. Kate, this past week has been amazing. Does it really have to end today? My offer still stands. Just say the word, and I'll divorce Sarah and marry you. A pause. Then Kate's voice. No, it wouldn't work. What kind of start is that? A marriage with a guy who left his wife and kids. I love Dave too much to hurt him like that. Really? You love him that much? Because he's not the one lying next to you right now. Another silence. Then, you're wrong. I love him completely. The moment I met him, I knew he was my soulmate. I want nothing more than to die in his arms, surrounded by our grandchildren. A scoff. Then why are you here with me now? More silence. Then Kate finally spoke. I just missed the past. I was a bit of a wild girl before I met Dave. I miss walking into a bar and feeling wanted. The thrill of leading a guy on and then deciding if he gets what he wants or not. Lately, Dave has been deer hunting every other weekend. 3 weekends ago, I decided to check out a bar, just for old time's sake. One night turned into 2. Then last Saturday, I ran into you, and here we are. I turned off the sound. The problem wasn't me. I had been a good husband and lover. She was just cold. The following days passed in disappointment. 2 days later, the reporters left my quiet street. The hospital administrator called, saying Kate needed pajamas. I ignored the request. She could deal with the humiliating hospital gowns. 2 days later, her father called. He apologized for Kate's behavior and asked if I'd keep in touch with the family. Then, in an attempt to sweeten the deal, he reminded me that he had another daughter, recently divorced. Sorry, Dad. For days after the incident, he was back on the news. Mr. Not-So-Big-Deal had been released from the hospital. But that wasn't the real headline. The journalists had done their job, digging up enough dirt to expose him as a serial cheater. The cherry on top, though the surgeons had successfully sewn his manhood back together, the consensus was that it was unlikely to function as intended ever again. It was a poetic kind of justice. By the end of that week, I had an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Barton, or Sarah, as she insisted I call her, was a pretty woman with sad eyes. She told me she had heard rumors that I might have some evidence that could help her in her divorce case. I neither confirmed nor denied it, but explained that revealing anything would mean exposing myself. She understood, apologizing for even asking. I reassured her that there was already more than enough circumstantial evidence for her to win. But if things took a turn, she was welcome to come back, and maybe, just maybe, I'd reconsider. Something about her sadness struck a chord in me. I felt sorry for her. So, I pulled up a video file and played only the aftermath of the big event. The moment her husband's agonized screams filled the air, she flinched, but she quickly composed herself. Let's just say that by the time she left, sadness wasn't the predominant emotion on her face anymore. And because I'm such a helpful guy, I told her she could always come back if she ever needed a pick-me-up. That wouldn't be the last time I saw Sarah Barton. The strangest visitor, however, arrived on Saturday. When I opened the door, I found the detective I had spoken to at the house that day. Gone was the suit. Now he wore just jeans and a shirt. Hey son, no, I won't come in. Just wanted to let you know that, since there's insufficient evidence, I recommended closing the case. I thanked him, but as he turned to leave, he hesitated. Then, glancing back at me, he added, "Listen, I'm retiring at the end of the year. If I come back after that, will you tell me how you did it?" I just smiled and wished him a good day. Then came Kate's letter. It arrived the following Tuesday. "My dear Dave, I can't express how ashamed and sorry I am for what I did to you. I understand perfectly why you haven't visited me, and I forgive you, unconditionally. I never truly considered the full consequences of my actions. I certainly never imagined that my parents would actually disown me. I know I've lost your love, your trust, and your respect forever. That truth hurts more than I can describe. I will understand if you never want to speak to me again, but if it helps your healing, I would like to explain why I did what I did. Just know that it was all my fault. The doctors say I won't be able to speak normally for a long time, maybe ever. Apparently, when I bit down, I swallowed part of my tongue. They're considering some experimental stretching technique to restore function. I hope it works. At the very least, I need something, anything, to distract me from the dull, loveless, childless future I now face. Take whatever you want in the divorce. I'll sign anything. Just, if you could keep me on your health insurance a little while longer, I would be forever grateful. Farewell, my love. I wish you nothing but happiness. I hope I haven't completely ruined your life. You're Kate, aka your cheating wife." The letter was so touching that I immediately reversed my previous decision and sent her pajamas to the hospital. Now, where the hell are Mick and Pete's numbers? Do I owe them a beer? Or a whole damn keg? Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.